Hi everyone, my name is Afaf. I'm one of the expert tutors for Advanced Audit and Assurance. So I'll be aiming at summarizing the content in a way that makes this topic very easy to understand and apply to questions in the AAA exam. We're going to be looking at the syllabus requirements. I will direct you towards the relevant chapter in the Study Hub. The focus of this video, however, is going to be the technical knowledge regarding acceptance and continuance considerations. You can prepare this topic pretty much entirely from this video, as the content is going to include insights from the examiner's reports as well. And as usual, we're going to wrap this all up by having a quick look at an exam style example where we're going to learn how to apply the knowledge that we have learnt in this video. It is very important that you read through the content and understand the technical knowledge which is covered in chapter 6 of the Study Hub. There's no learning needed as such, but this needs to be read actively so that you can actually apply this knowledge to the given scenarios in the exam. The quizzes, the flashcards, and revision questions in the Study Hub are going to help you evaluate your understanding of the key concepts. So please do make sure that you use all the available resources which have been provided by ACCA. Now, if you remember from AA, when we want to accept a new engagement or want to continue an existing one, we need to evaluate different measures to sort of guard against the engagement risks. So we have to consider factors like the lack of any expertise that might be needed in that audit or engagement, or concerns about potential clients' fraudulent activities, etc. I'll keep using the terms potential or prospective client because we haven't really accepted the engagement yet. In AAA, we're going to build on these concepts. What you see on the screen right now is a very clear view from the Study Hub of elements that we need to consider when we talk about engagement acceptance. We are going to be looking at some of these in quite a bit of detail, keeping it very exam focused. Now, let's look at this as a logical process. There are various ways that firms can get new engagements or clients. It could be through networking or referrals, or could be as a result of submitting a tender. We're going to look at this in just a few minutes. But remember, the firm must decide whether they want to take the client on in the first place. Now, this is called acceptance. And in external audit, for example, it comes before the start of the actual audit process. And auditor may also be in a situation where they have already done the audit last year. They now need to evaluate whether they want to continue with the engagement in the current year. In this case, this is called a continuance decision. So I'll keep referring to the words acceptance or continuance. It is important to keep in mind that the firm needs to revisit the acceptance checklist to make sure it is appropriate to continue. So the checklist or the series of factors that I give you, yes, they're always there for new clients, but they need to be looked at for your continuing engagements as well. I'll talk about this again in the video, but a super important point to remember and apply to exam questions is that a firm's decision to accept a new client or continue with an existing one should not just focus on whether the work is profitable. So it shouldn't just be about the fee. Your ethical considerations are also very important, and we're going to be discussing all of this in detail. And once it has been decided that we want to accept the engagement, we need to make it all official by agreeing the terms of engagement with the management or those charged with governance through something that we call the engagement letter. So these are the 3 steps that we're going to be looking at when we talk about professional appointments, with most of the focus being on the second one, which is tested quite a lot in the AAA exams. Now, there are various ways that a firm can actually get new audit clients or other engagements as well. The firm may have submitted a tender. Now, tendering is a process where the firm is going to outline the work that they're going to do, their methodology, their quality standards, etc., that they're going to follow, the resources that they will allocate, along with the fee that they're going to charge or the basis of that fee. All of this is going to be done in a written document that we normally call the tender. Also keep in mind that if you're going to be sort of putting yourself forward for more than one engagement, then each engagement is going to have a separate tender document. The firm may also be considering new engagements because they were approached by the client or may have been referred by someone else. Just a quick reminder here, if there's referral fee involved, it also needs to be considered under the Code of Ethics. The idea is that any firm that is receiving the commission or the referral fee for introducing clients need to have safeguards in place. Another common way of getting new clients is through advertising. The firm may have advertised or promoted their services. There are certain guidelines that need to be considered here. For example, the content should not be misleading or exaggerated. It should be based on facts. The content should not have anything that brings ACCA or the accountancy profession into disrepute. And we should not, in our wording of the ad or the marketing material, we should not put down or discredit any other firms. Plus, you should also be following your own local advertising laws and regulations. So as you read through the content on the Study Hub, please make sure that you carefully read through these different ways, because although this is not tested very often, you should be comfortable with what the content really includes. So we've now looked at how or what the common ways are for getting new audit clients or new engagements. When determining whether to enter into a professional relationship with a client, there are a number of factors that need to be evaluated. What you see on the screen right now is a very important checklist that you need to learn and then apply to the scenarios in the AAA exam. You can use this for audit as well as other non-audit engagements. So for example, you might, as far as the AAA syllabus is concerned, if you're asked to outline or discuss or evaluate the factors that we have to consider before we accept an engagement on due diligence or assurance on prospective financial information, you can use most of the content from the same checklist. We are going to be looking at several audit-specific considerations as well. Everything that I talk about in this video are requirements of your quality management standards, the Code of Ethics, and in some cases your auditing standards when I talk about audit-specific considerations. Another thing that I need you to remember and maybe potentially apply if needed in the exam is that acceptance is not like a one-off matter. So as firms, we need to make sure that we use a similar checklist when we are considering continuing with an old client as well. So this is basically an acceptance as well as a continuance checklist. We're going to be looking at each of these 8 factors in turn. The focus is going to be on getting you to understand the concepts, because sometimes if there's not enough information given in the scenario, some of these contents will need to be written as straightforward points as well. So we need to identify the subject matter and the suitable criteria. So for example, the subject matter may be social, environmental, or health and safety information, and the applicable criteria could be performance measures which are established by a recognized body of experts. In external audit or statutory audit, the subject matter is the financial statements, and the criteria or the suitable criteria is the financial reporting framework. So for whatever engagement that we're considering, we need to know what the subject matter and the criteria is. We need to understand the industry that the potential client is in and all the applicable laws and regulations. This is going to help us identify specific risk factors relating to an engagement, and this will also help us ensure compliance with the relevant requirements of standards and legislation. As a part of understanding the nature of the client, we need to get information about the operations of the client, assess the client's ownership, their organizational structure, how they are financed, etc. So all of this understanding has to be gained before we decide to accept a client as well. Now, if it is an assurance engagement, we need to evaluate whether the level of assurance that we're going to give is reasonable or limited. Remember, and this is again from AA, we do have assurance engagements which should be limited or reasonable, but we also have something called agreed upon procedures like forensic accounting in AAA, where we are not giving any assurance at all. So in all cases, I need to have clarity on whether it's an assurance engagement. If yes, then the level of assurance that I could give. So for example, for assurance on forecasts, the level of assurance will be limited. Now, once I'm clear on the nature and circumstances and the scope of the audit work, firms need to consider the client's integrity and ethical values. Firms do not or would not or should not want to work with clients with questionable ethics, as their own reputation would be affected if they are basically associated with them. The firm therefore needs to evaluate the integrity of the potential client. Now again, each of this is going to be separate marks in the exam. To start off with, when we have to evaluate integrity, we're going to carry out client due diligence to basically check the identity of the client. For example, their certificate of incorporation, the list of owners, directors, the company's registered address, etc. And we need to evaluate the business reputation of the main owners and the key management. This means that if there's any indicator of money laundering or illegal activities in the AAA question, that has to be picked up and discussed and ultimately concluded towards the end that we shouldn't really be working with such clients. These are the same client due diligence procedures which are also carried out in order to comply with your anti-money laundering regulations. Now, this is an interesting one. You're going to read through the scenario. If we are not the auditors of that potential client and we've been asked to carry out some non-audit engagement in the question, we need to find out why the client is appointing a different firm from its auditors, as they would normally be the first choice. So we have to find out why. So if the question says this is not an existing client of yours and they've asked you to give assurance on the sustainability report, I need to find out why they haven't used their existing auditors. Is it because they're trying to pressurize or intimidate their current auditors about potential future loss of income? Or are they hoping that a new firm with lesser understanding of their business will do this additional work so that they can get away with hiding information? Remember, it doesn't have to be all bleak and negative. It could also be reasons like the existing auditors do not have the specialism to give assurance on sustainability, or they might not be allowed to do so because of the code of ethics, etc. We're going to get permission from the potential client to contact their auditors to do this. If this permission is not given, the appointment should not be accepted. Another matter which has an impact on integrity is whether the potential client is very concerned with maintaining the fee as low as possible. Remember, this is going to affect, or this can affect, the quality of our work, because we might not follow the fundamental principle of professional competence and due care. We've charged lesser fee in a hurry. We just want to now finish off the work. Now, continuing with issues related to client integrity, we also need to consider if there's any management imposed scope limitation which is basically when they do not give us unrestricted access to the relevant information. So if they've told us before we've actually started the work, before we've accepted the client, if they've told us that we will not have access to information that we need for this particular engagement, this would affect our objectivity, and we shouldn't be accepting this client if this limitation is not removed or this restriction is not removed. In the AAA exam, this should be scenario specific, by the way. So in the AAA exam, please be alert to any indications that there might be concerns about management integrity or management bias. So for example, if you can see that a client in the past has continuously been not complying with laws and regulations, or there are indications that they've been involved in money laundering or other criminal activities, we should identify this as a very important factor which affects their integrity, and we should not be accepting this engagement. So for the exam, in addition to the elements that I've already covered, which is your customer due diligence, which is them not using current auditors and other points, we also need to look for any additional information which is there in the scenario of the exam. Now, there's some super easy marks in the AAA exam, and you will only get these marks if you link them to the scenario. Firms need to ensure that they're complying with all the relevant standards by accepting work that they have the competence and capability to carry out. So what do we mean by this? So competence, for example, if the client is in a specialized industry with, say, operations related to production of agricultural goods and their processing, the firm has to make sure that they have available staff which is familiar with the industry. If not, they should at least be able to send them on training to understand the industry. On top of that, we also need to look at whether we have the capability to carry out this work, and this basically means staff and the reporting deadline or the timeline has to be considered. Remember, if it's a short deadline, that doesn't mean we have to say no. We just need to make sure we have enough resources that we can allocate to this client. So again, another example, if the potential client is a large multinational listed company with many subsidiaries, this would be a sizable audit which is going to be spanning across many countries because it's a multinational company. And this is going to require extensive coordination with component auditors. All of this is going to be very demanding on the firm's resources. So we have to read the scenario and look for any indication that we're going to struggle with resources. If it's not given, just write it as a straightforward point. As most companies are moving towards automated management information systems, we also need to consider if there's a need to deploy specific IT resources which are compatible with the client's systems. Now, something you need to be alert to in practice, but more specifically in the AAA exam, is that we shouldn't underestimate resources so that we can quote a lower fee. Basically, this would mean that we will do our work in a rush later on and ultimately might end up compromising the quality of the engagement and potentially breaching our professional standards as well. So when we are doing an evaluation of competence and capability, we need to make sure we're quite realistic. So we've covered your professional standards. We're now going to move on to ethical issues, and we're going to be basically simply keeping in mind our code of ethics. In the exam, you need to be alert to any threat to objectivity and independence. Independence checks apply to acceptance engagements as well as recurring engagements, so continuous decisions as well. In the AAA exam in particular, look out for any conflicts of interest between the potentially new client and an existing client. Again, because if there is such a conflict of interest as per the code of ethics, we need to put in safeguards like getting written consent and having segregated teams, etc. There could also be self-review threats which need to be safeguarded against. If you're basically considering giving a non-audit engagement to an existing audit client. You can also discuss self-interest and intimidation fee if there's a pressure to charge low fee. Interesting enough, you can write the opposite as well. If they're giving you an unreasonably large fee, you could also talk about your objectivity, because you might not carry out the engagement properly simply because you're getting a lot of money from that client. Right, this is a very interesting one. And this is quite simple but practical as well. Remember, a firm's financial priorities would basically focus on profitability of the firm. Its operational priorities could include a focus on clients or areas such as growing the firm's market share or industry specialization. It's important to consider and write in the AAA exam that acceptance and continuous decisions should not be based on these priorities only. So, for example, if the client lacks integrity and ethical values, we can't accept the client simply because they're paying us good money or they will be a good addition to our client list. We've already discussed this, but again, a low fee could give rise to self-interest threat. It is also important to remember that for audit in particular, but for most other assurance engagements as well, a contingent fee basis is not allowed. So, for example, if the client wants the audit fee to be based on a percentage of profit, this is not going to be acceptable. So, you're going to pick this up and explain that in your answer. Now, for assurance engagements, and this includes audit, we need to establish the preconditions of the engagement. This includes the expectation that we will be able to get the evidence that we need to give our report. We also need to confirm that the management and those charged with governance understand and acknowledge their responsibilities in relation to that particular engagement. Now, for statutory audit, this is something that you should know from AA, but because this needs to be applied in AAA questions, I'm going to quickly recap this. Remember, we learned this in AA. We're going to write this and apply this to a scenario in AAA. So, read through the question. Look for any indication that the financial reporting framework used to prepare the financial statements is not appropriate or prescribed by local law. We also need to, as a part of the preconditions, obtain management's written acknowledgement through the engagement letter that they understand their responsibilities regarding preparing financial statements, regarding having controls over financial reporting, and giving us unrestricted access to relevant information and persons. So in the AAA question, if you see that this is basically a consideration of statutory audit, if there's any indication that the directors don't understand or acknowledge their responsibilities, if they're trying to limit our scope, or if the reporting framework is not appropriate, you're going to go on to say that the precondition has not been met and we cannot accept this engagement. Now, in addition to the professional and legal considerations, we should also review the acceptance decision against the firm's own policies and procedures, which might be more strict than the ones allowed by our profession and regulations. So, for example, we know that the code says for listed clients, we need to rotate the engagement partner after 7 years with the flexibility of 1 year. If the AAA question says that the firm's own policy is more strict and maybe the rotation is required after 6 years, then you get additional marks for saying that this is an evaluation, which could mean their own policies have been breached as well. Remember, the code is the minimum requirement. You could have more strict policies as far as the firm is concerned. Now, so whatever we've done up till now, so until point number 7, these were all elements that you could use for audit as well as other engagements. We're going to have a look at a few examples which are specific to statutory audit only. Because if this is a new client and there is an outgoing auditor, we're going to take the client's permission and we're going to contact the outgoing auditors and we're going to ask them if there are any ethical or professional reasons for us not accepting the engagement. And when they reply, you're going to make a decision accordingly. Additionally, throughout the scenario, there are some commonly tested indications that this could be a highly risky client. So for example, in the recent past, they've had continuously modified audit opinions. They are looking for a new auditor close to the year end or just after the year end. They have weak systems of internal controls, or they do not maintain their accounting records properly, which means there are more chances of errors in their information. Like I said earlier, there's indication that they've been frequently involved in litigation cases, etc. There are concerns regarding their ability to continue as a going concern, in which case they would be highly motivated to manipulate the financial statements, or maybe they do not follow the corporate governance requirements. So these are all examples from your standards along with your past exams. So any such scenario specific points will need to be identified to say, we're not saying don't accept these clients, but this should be an acceptance consideration because this increases the risk associated with accepting this client. You would have done this in group audits, but I want to include this here so that you remember this when you're preparing this topic. At the acceptance stage, when you know that component auditors will carry out work on the components of the group and group audit, the firm has to evaluate if the group engagement team will be able to get involved in the work of those component auditors. So simply put, they need to find out whether there may be any restriction on getting evidence from them or any potential difficulty in dealing with the component auditors. So this would be very specific to an acceptance consideration for group audits. So remember, we did this as a cycle. We know how we can get new clients. We've covered the series of factors that we need to consider before we accept a new client or continue with an existing one. Once we've done this evaluation and we've decided to accept this, we're going to draft a letter called an engagement letter following requirements for audit in particular. We're going to officially become the auditors when this engagement letter is signed by the client and by us. Once this is signed and the engagement has been accepted, we need to basically plan our work based on the risk assessment we did and the level of assurance if it's an assurance engagement. So of course, if it's a reasonable assurance engagement, there'll be more work. Another thing, and this is something the AAA examiner has tested a couple of times, is that whatever factors you evaluated during the acceptance and continuous stage are or might be used later in the audit. So for example, that information can help you assess ROM at the planning stage. It will help you understand the group and its components and their environment. This will help us plan the direction or supervision that is needed for the component auditors. This will also help us understand whether we need an auditor's expert, etc. So it's not as if we did that checklist and we just forgot about it. Now, as far as the AAA exam is concerned, the testing has been quite predictable. The examiner would either refer to the term quality management in particular, so evaluate the matters in respect of quality management which should be considered by the firm before they accept the engagement, or they could not use the word quality management and simply say matters to consider. Remember, it could be for audit or for any other engagements. In all cases, please remember you get additional technical and professional skills marks for giving a conclusion, which basically means after you have evaluated this entire checklist that we spoke about, you need to make sure that you give a conclusion as to yes or no. So based on the evaluation, do you want to or do you not want to accept that? Now, I would want you to please pause the screen right now and read this question. The requirement is you have to evaluate the matters to be considered in deciding whether to accept the appointment as statutory auditors of Wexfedco for 6 marks. So I would want you to just read this information. We're not going to be debriefing this because this is quite simple, but after you've read through this, I want you to come back and listen to the next few minutes to identify the scenario specific information. Now, when questions like this come up, the first thing I need to do is, this is what I said you have to learn. I would quickly, as a part of my answer plan, just write down several considerations. If you can remember all 8, that would be amazing, so that I can use this as a checklist to write down my answer. Whichever elements you can link to the scenario, that is amazing. The rest you can write as straightforward testing. So for example, if you're not able to evaluate capability and competence, just write it as straightforward, that we have to consider our experience, our staff available and timelines, etc. For this question in particular, this is a very, very old exam question. The only reason I've put this as an example is to help you identify the scenario specific discussion that you have to do. So as you read through the question, when you see the word or the phrase that this is the first year that an audit is required, this is an example of a scenario specific point which indicates that this is going to be a risky client. So we're not saying last year the audit was done by someone else. We are basically saying there's never been an audit done before. So the opening balances and comparatives have not been audited. This makes it a high potential audit risk client. Then later on in the question, it's a small owner managed business that they run along with the sister, and we employ a PARD qualified accountant to do the bookkeeping and prepare the accounts, and Rita and I rarely do more than quickly review the sales figures. So another scenario specific indication of this being a highly risky client because they do not have systems of internal control. So in the absence of such systems or controls, my concern is higher chances of fraud and particularly errors in this question. Based on the next information, we understand that we now need to get the accounts audited, and they want us to prepare the accounts and do the audit at the same time. So as a part of ethical considerations, we're going to discuss self-review and management threats. Remember, this is a private client, this is not listed, but we need to make sure that even if we do accept the engagement, it is only routine and mechanical. We do not take any management decisions, and this is done by 2 different teams with QCR applied to both the engagements. So lots of marks if you follow the ethics format over here. Very important. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this example, we do not want a cash flow statement prepared as it is not required for tax purposes. Now, this is an indication that they're not aware of the financial reporting framework. Remember, one of the precondition was appropriate reporting framework, and financial statements have not been prepared according to that. So, a precondition not been met. Next year, we're planning to acquire another company, one of our competitors, which I believe is an existing audit client of your firm. Another element, which is conflict of interest, you will have to discuss this in the format that we use for questions on ethics. So conflict of interest with safeguards mentioned here. Finally, for this reason, we require that your audit procedures do not include reading the minutes of board meetings. Again, another indication that there's a limitation of scope. They're not giving us unrestricted access to information that we need, and therefore a precondition has not been met. So all the rest of the points, we can do safeguards, we can manage them. For the preconditions, they will need to prepare a cash flow statement. They will have to give us access to the minutes of board meetings. If these 2 preconditions are not met, then we should not accept this statutory audit engagement. So in addition to the straightforward knowledge points that you can write down in terms of it's a firm, this is a normal audit, there seems to be no concern about competence. Write that down. Don't simply write we have to consider competence. Write down that there seems to be no problem here. There's no indication that this is the busy time of the year for the firm. There's no indication that there's a short deadline. So we just need to make sure we have the available staff and timelines, etc. So from the checklist, whichever points you were not able to link to the scenario, you can write them down as straightforward answers. Please remember, this example is for audit, but we can use the checklist for all the other engagements as well. Just to wrap up, I would once again like to recommend that please make sure that you practice the related questions from StudyHub and the practice platform, because it is the application of this knowledge that is the key to passing the AAA exam.